Hello, Erica here, and it is still winter here. I live in North Carolina. We got 1 inch of snow last week, and they closed public schools for 4 days. And tonight they're calling for 4 to 8 inches of snow, which is insane, and I think is going to send the state into a state of emergency. So I decided I would do a video on snow day recommendations. None of these books particularly have anything to do with winter or snow. They're just fun reads, I think, for a day when you find yourself snowed in without much else to do. So let's get started. First, I have a short story collection, and that is no surprise to anyone, but I have one I haven't talked about before, and that is 10th of December by George Saunders. This is amazing. So, George Saunders is very well known for his collection Pastoralia. I haven't read anything else by him but this, but I am looking forward to doing that in the future. This was published in 2013. It got a lot of acclaim. The stories in this are really beautiful. Usually I like to take my time with a short story collection and maybe read one or two and then put it down, because I find that if I don't, then I get the stories all jumbled in my brain, I don't remember them, and I just kind of can become exhausted with the author's style, since you're not necessarily following the same story throughout the whole thing. You have to stop and start. It's mentally exhausting for me. So I like to take my time with a short story collection, but I read this in one sitting. And here's why. Every single story in this is so completely different and so wonderful that I couldn't stop. So there are 10 stories in this collection. None of them is particularly long. The whole collection is like 270 pages. There are also some stories that are like kind of sci-fi-esque and twisted. There are like stories that are almost like reading a crime novel. Like, they're so eclectic in genre, I feel like, that I just kept going. I kept wanting to know what was he going to do next, because it was very exciting. So if you find yourself snowed in and are looking to get wrapped up in some short stories that will simultaneously warm your heart and also make you question why the hell the human race has survived this long, I highly recommend 10th of December by George Saunders. Next, I have a novel, and it is a novel that is pretty literary in tone, but also kind of hilarious and kind of heartbreaking, which I think is the best thing for a snow day. It's not a romantic comedy, but like, I feel like the juxtaposition of humor and tragedy kind of remind me of watching a romantic comedy. And this is A Short History of Tractors in Ukrainian by Marina, Lewycka. This is wonderful. It's a story of a family, and there's two daughters and the father. The father is a widower, and into their life spins this blonde bombshell of a Ukrainian woman who decides to marry the father. And the daughters have to try to convince him that she's terrible and that she's only marrying him because she wants, to be able to legally immigrate into the country. It's set in the UK. It's absolutely wonderful, and juxtaposed with it is kind of this sentiment of the father being a World War II survivor who was persecuted, and the daughters also kind of dealing with their adult lives and their relationship. And it's just excellent. At times, it's laugh out loud funny. At times, it's just very poignant and really revealing about how different families can be and how people from within the same families can develop such different personalities and argue with each other and fight with each other, but in the end, they continue to come back to each other. So if you like family stories, if you like a little bit of comic relief, I highly recommend this. Next, I have some light fantasy reading, and this is, everyone knows it, The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making by Catherynne and Valente. I'm obsessed with this series. I love them all. I love September. I love the world building that Valente does in this series. Valente's writing, by the way, is mind-blowing. For those of you who don't know, this is a middle grades fantasy series about a girl named September who lives a boring life during World War II in Nebraska and is whisked away by the green wind one day to Fairyland, where she encounters all sorts of magical creatures and goes on adventures, and it's just everything about every book I loved in my childhood wrapped up into one package and written for me as an adult, I feel like. This is a book for all ages, for sure. And if you're looking for something that's relatively short and relatively easy to read, but is just magical and fabulous, I can't rave about this book enough. I think this would be excellent to be snowed in with. Actually, when I read it, I was at home sick and just wanted something like fun and something to cheer me up while I was sick at home all day and couldn't get out of bed. So I definitely recommend this as a snow day read. And lastly, I have something that I haven't even finished yet. So it's weird that I'm recommending this even though I haven't finished it. But I am in the middle of it. And this is Tiny Beautiful Things, Advice on Love and Life from Dear Sugar by Cheryl Strayed. For those of you who don't know, Cheryl Strayed is the author of Wild, and she also wrote a novel, the title of which I cannot remember right now, which is terrible. This is the first I've read from her, and this is a collection of work she did as an advice columnist. And it's just a collection of questions and responses. But it's like part self-help and part memoir almost. Because Cheryl Strayed, in her responses to these people who are searching help, she reveals a lot about her own life and her own experience in order to better, I feel like, relate to the people who are writing to her. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, but it's beautiful. So if you are looking for something that's very engrossing and very raw, but at the same time beautiful, I highly recommend this for a rainy day. So I just wanted to kind of read you a bit from the introduction to this book. This isn't a letter that I've yet found included in the book, though it may be. And it's the first column that Cheryl Strayed wrote as Sugar. And the letter that she received said, Dear Sugar, WTF, WTF, WTF. I'm asking this question as it applies to everything every day. And she replied, and at the end of the letter, she wrote, Ask better questions, sweet pea. The fuck is your life? Answer it. So, I'd say this has some very poignant life advice in it. I would also say that it is humorous and that it is heartbreaking and that it is a really enjoyable read. So I would definitely recommend picking this up if you are snowed in anytime soon. So those are all my snow day recommendations for y'all today. If you have any recommendations for what I should read, because it looks like I'm going to be snowed in for a week, please let me know. I do have a Kindle, so I can always download something if I find something that catches my fancy. And if you have any questions about any of these books, also feel free to ask down in the comments, and I will see you all soon. Bye.